Hey, APC family, it's Pastor Moses here. Listen, I want to give you a summary and some highlights from the survey we just did. You know that for the last couple of years, we've been doing this Church Pulse survey. It's in partnership with Barna. If you're unfamiliar with Barna, they are probably the largest organization that is doing research and statistics as it relates to faith and culture. And so they're a great resource. In 2020, during COVID, they actually partnered with a lot of different churches and came out with this survey called the Church Pulse Assessment. And really, that's what it's designed to do. It's designed to help pastors and church leadership get a pulse on their church, right? Hence, Church Pulse. And so, very clever. But what I want to do is first of all, thank you if you filled this survey out. It really helps us. It doesn't ask for any of your personal information, by the way. So the next time we do this, which we will be doing this, we do this once every year, just to get the heart and the health of our house. Statistics came out recently, and this is kind of a shocking thing. Kerry Newhoff brought this forward. He said the stable church is dying in North America. So the stable church is kind of the steady, regular maintenance church. You know, they're not growing, they're not dying. It's like they were 100 people 10 years ago, they're 100 people today. That's the stable, steady church. He's saying that church is dying. And now more and more churches fall into two categories. The two categories being you're either growing as a church or you're dying as a church. Now, of course, that's not speaking specifically to numerical growth and numerical dying or decrease. It's also speaking to the health of the church. How are the people doing spiritually? How are they doing outside the walls of the church as they faithfully try to follow Jesus in this crazy world that we all live in? And so this kind of stuff, these surveys, really allow us to gauge the growth of our church. And that doesn't just mean the numbers and the seats. You'll have to excuse my nasal blockage today. I'm dealing with allergies. And so if you're wondering why I sound nasally, that is why I'm stuffed up. And so blame the allergies. I don't know what's going on, but pray for me. So, and that was probably a gross sound, so forgive me for the stuff that I do today. Anyways, let me continue. And so that's why it's really important for us to have these assessments so we can say, hey, are we really growing? Are we healthy? And, we've recently gone to 3 services, and so we've seen numerical growth. We were averaging just over about 300 people, and now we're averaging just over about 500 a Sunday. And so we've grown numerically, but we can't be deceived as pastors and leaders. Our job is to not go, hey, just because there's more people in the church, that means we're healthy. So that's why these surveys and this assessment is incredibly important. So let me kind of run you through how Barna does this and the survey results. And so let me walk you through the demographics. First of all, you'll know that our church is incredibly multi-generational. It's also we have a vast variety of even ethnicities here from all sorts of places, hence the name All People's Church. And I want you to know that we actually don't try to be multi-generational or diverse. It's not something that we aim to do. Rather, because of the heart of the house, because of the heart of the Father and the heart of the gospel, this is the DNA of the house. We are multi-generational. We are a house with many different ethnicities. And so we are All People's Church. And so we celebrate that. So let me walk you through the demographics. You see here that, Gen Z, for instance, we have about 6% of Gen Z in our church from 1999 to 2004. Our millennials from 1984 to 1998, that's about 33% of our church makeup. And then Gen X, which is 1965 to 1983, is about 40% of our makeup. That actually has gone up by about 8%. Last time we did the survey, Gen X was sitting at about 32%. And so Gen X, we've increased that number to 40%. And then the boomers are sitting about at 20%. The boomers are at 1946 to 1964. That's kind of gone down a little bit. Last time we did this, we were at 27% for the boomers, and now we are at 20%. So again, multi-generational, lots of different generations here at the church. This is an interesting one, gender. A lot of churches, this has kind of been the statistics throughout history. There have been more females than male in churches, and we continue to see that. The statistics actually tell us from our church, we have about 58% female and 41% male. Now, here's the encouraging thing, for me at least, and maybe for you too. The last time we did this, our men, we were at about 38%. So we've gone up a few percent of the men that are in the church. And that's encouraging because we want to see more men at the church and serving God and faithfully committed to Jesus. Let me walk you through some of the ethnicities. You'll see, again, a lot of different ethnicities, 10% white and not Hispanic, 39% black or African American. And we have a large group of Caribbean people, people from the islands and the tropics. And so we celebrate them. And we have about 18% Asian or Asian American, 6% two or more ethnic groups. And so a mixed group there. And then other ethnic groups that people didn't identify were about 14%. And so again, we're kind of a mixed bag of people serving God, worshiping God, and just celebrating the fact that Jesus has saved us all. And so that's exciting. Marital status, 63% of our church is right now married, and 17% are single. So single people, there is some potential for you here at the church to find somebody. So that's encouraging, isn't it? 2% widowed, 9% divorced, 6% prefer not to say. But yeah, a lot of married families here at the church, which also means that a lot of children, 42% say that we have children under 18 at our home. And so quite a few families here at the church. And then there's still quite a few that don't have children. Either children have moved out and grown, or they just don't have kids. And so 28% don't have children, and 27% say that our children have grown or they're not currently living at home. And so again, a mixed group there of those who have children at home and those who do not. Let's talk about employment a little bit. This is interesting. Full-time employment here at the church. 60% of our church is full-time employed. 9% is part-time employed, and 13% are self-employed. Now that self-employed number has gone up from 10% last time to 13%, which is really exciting to see, which means we have some business people, some entrepreneurs, and self-employment. That's exciting for people to use their talents and their giftings in that way to be self-employed. And so kudos to you if you are one of those people, and God continue to bless you in your business. Our church engagement. Now, this is fascinating. This is exciting. Now, there's a lot of statistics about church engagement kind of dropping, people being inconsistent since COVID. So 2020, that COVID happened and everything got messed up. And since then, church engagement has kind of taken a hit. And then I see this about our church, and I'm incredibly encouraged. So 71% of our church rarely miss a week of Sunday service. That is cool. 71% say, hey, I rarely miss a church service. I am there. That's gone up from 58%. How cool is that? So clearly we are seeing more and more people be hungry for God, and the desire to come back to church, worship with God's people in person, not just online, has increased. And so I love that. 14% say we come 3 times per month. That's gone up from 8%. And so we're seeing this growth and acceleration in church engagement, which as a pastor makes me super excited because it tells me people are hungry. They want to be back in church community and they want to worship God in one place. And that is exciting, people. Now, Barna has something called flourishing personas or flourishing people. So when they look at the survey, the way they've kind of divided it up is they have 5 categories that they focus on. And if you did the survey, they would have asked you questions in regards to your faith, in regards to your relationships, in regards to your finances, in regards to your vocation, and in regards to your health. So those are the 5 flourishing personas. Those are the 5 categories they focus on to determine, hey, are the people in your church, in your congregation flourishing? And these are the 5 categories that they look at. So once again, this faith, relationships, finances, vocation, and health. And so let me show you just a quick pie graph to show you where our people are at. So 41 are flourishing, 37 are growing, and we'll walk through exactly what this means. 1% exploring, 11% trusting, 8% unwavering, and 2% enduring. So let's walk through what these mean. So first up, we have flourishing. What does it mean to be flourishing? So those who score as flourishing have been found to rank more consistently positive across all dimensions. So the 5 dimensions, those who are flourishing rank consistently positive across all the dimensions of their personal assessment. Now, watch this. An especially significant takeaway from this is that their faith is strong. As a matter of fact, research shows that individuals whose lives are grounded in vibrant faith and who maintain a connection to an active church community are more likely to flourish. Notice, who are more likely to flourish in the assessment's remaining 4 dimensions. In other words, what Barna is saying, hey, if you flourish, if you're high and strong in faith, then you're actually statistically more likely to flourish in the other assessments of relationship, vocation, finances, and health. So that's exciting to see that 41% of our church is flourishing. They are ranking high consistently in all 5 dimensions. So that's incredibly exciting to see. So let's talk about growing. So the next category we have is growing. So those who have relatively high scores across all the 5 dimensions, and although their responses show room for additional growth, research indicates that their strong faith and active spiritual life can elevate their flourishing in other areas. Now, they're more likely to flourish in their relationships, vocations, and finances because they're grounded in faith and they're connected in their church. So these are those who are growing. So they might not be ranking consistently high in all 5 categories like the flourishing people, but they still ranked relatively high in all the 5 categories of faith, relationships, finances, vocation, and health. And these are a 37%. Now, I want you to see this, that about 78% of our church is flourishing or growing. That is so cool and so exciting to hear that we actually have a church of people who are flourishing and growing. They're scoring relatively high or consistently high in faith, relationships, finances, vocation, and their health. And so that encourages me so much, and I hope that encourages you as well, that you're a part of a church where 78% are growing or flourishing. These are the top 2 categories, the top 2 rankings that Barna gives in the categories of faith, relationship, finances, and vocation. So let's talk about the other ones really quickly. So the next one we have here is trusting. Those who score trusting, they rank high on all dimensions of their assessment, except in the area of their finances. So they ranked high in their faith, they ranked high in their relationships, in their vocation, in their health, but they didn't rank as high in their finances. So Barna says these individuals are trusting. Their outlook on life remains largely positive, knowing that life's fullness is not defined by financial hardship. So even though their finances might not be where they want them to be, they're actually still scoring relatively high in the other categories, meaning they're trusting God and their outlook on life is still positive, and that just because their finances are not where they want them to be doesn't mean they've actually been discouraged by them. So I love that. Next up, we have unwavering. And so trusting was about 11%. Unwavering are those who score relatively high, except in the areas of their faith. And so, though individuals in this group may lead lives marked by challenges, their belief in God still remains steady and their spiritual convictions still remain firm. And so, that's about 8% of our church would fall under the unwavering category. Next up, we have enduring. Now, enduring are those who've scored low across all 5 dimensions of flourishing. One of the things that Barna says is that it might be possible, it's worth considering that this group is tough on themselves when it comes to answering these types of surveys. However, their low ratings could also suggest that they are facing obstacles and a very difficult season in life currently. And so these people they make up about 2% of our church. Barna actually says that across North America, the average for those who are enduring is about 8 to 12%. And so our church is lower than that. And so that's exciting to hear and to know. So overall, our church falls under the categories of flourishing. The last one is exploring. And that's about 1% of our church is marked or made up by individuals who kind of rank consistently lower in the faith dimension. And so Barna says their responses suggest that they might still be exploring what it means to place God at the center of their lives. And so that's about 1% of our church. Now, what that tells me is that maybe we need to take those invite cards that we always hand out at the end of our service, and we need to actually put them in the hands of people that might not know Jesus, or they might be just kind of on the fence. They're not entirely sure what they believe. Maybe we need to do a better job at getting those invite cards into the hands of people who may not be fully trusting God or have placed Jesus at the center of their lives. The next category Barna kind of goes into is what they call a thriving church. We're almost done. There are 12 dimensions of a thriving church. Let me read them out to you. You'll see them on the screen. Holistic stewardship, serving others, worship experience, prayer culture, faith sharing, Bible-centered, spiritual formation, trusted leaders, leadership development, social impact, and connected community. So flourishing personas and flourishing people, that actually has to do with the people that make up the congregation of our church. But the thriving dimensions of the church actually have to do with church life and even what the culture, what the DNA of this church is like. And so these are the dimensions of our church. Let me say this. Across the board, I can say this. We are a high faith church. We are a high faith church. We are a church that appreciates prayer culture, that experiences a great worship experience. And so overall, we would say that, our church is thriving. Places of maybe improvement could be in the areas of connected community, where people might not feel like that they have relationships in their lives that are meaningful and that they can get accountability from. And so that is one area of improvement. Another area of improvement is some people are still kind of having a hard time figuring out, hey, am I doing what I'm purposed to do in my life? Is this my purpose? Is this my calling? And so there's still a little bit of clarity needed there. But overall, we are continuing to grow. We are continuing to thrive. In terms of our giving, so that kind of falls under holistic stewardship. How are people managing their finances? People are giving, more and more people are giving on a need to give per basis and how they feel comfortable. So those who give 10% or more has actually gone down a little. And here's what statistics say, that the larger a church gets, those who tithe, give 10% or more, that number actually decreases the more the church grows. And so, we've gone to 3 services. We've gone from averaging over 300 to averaging over 500. And so we're seeing that decrease. But I want to challenge you. I want to encourage you. Hey, just because that might be the norm doesn't mean that has to be the norm here. And so I would encourage you to continue to trust God, continue to put your faith in God, even over your finances. But let me just say some closing thoughts here as we wrap up. Thank you again for filling this out and taking the time to do this survey. It takes about 5 minutes. We're going to be doing this again. We want to do this once every year just to get a pulse on our church and to know that we are growing, we are healthy, and to assess needs of areas of improvement. We do a lot of sermon series kind of based on the results we get. We include programs in our church calendar based on the results that we get. And so I want you to know that we don't just do this just so that we can read a report. We do this so that we can take actions to continue to thrive, continue to flourish, and so that we can be the church that God has called us to do, and that we can help you in your journey as you follow Jesus and in your journey as life outside of the 4 walls of this church, because that's important. Because how we follow Jesus is not just a matter of being within the 4 walls of Jesus, but it is largely a matter of life outside of these 4 walls. And so I'm encouraged. I hope you're encouraged as well. I'm going to wrap this up because my nose is clearly still a mess. And so I don't know, maybe you were tired of hearing my nasally voice, but this has been fun. This has been real. I'm going to go blow my nose. Thank you again for being a part of what God is doing here at All People's Church. We just trust God. We're so faithfully committed to his plan for this house. Thank you for the part that you play and the role that you play. May God continue to bless you.